We get so scarcity mindseted when we're like not doing well. We focus so on what we don't have that more of what we don't have shows up. Instead of looking up and really looking at it globally and how can we serve our team better so that they can serve our patients better? How do we get back to hospitality?
This is Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast where we ask the question, what does growth in dentistry look like to you? I'm Katie Polson, a dental hygienist and your host.
Welcome, everyone. This is the Growth in Dentistry podcast where we ask the question, what does growth in dentistry mean to you? My name is Steve Jensen, a total dental nerd and your host today. I am super excited about today's episode, but before we jump in, a couple of quick notes. First, we would love it if you would rate and review the podcast. It means the world to us. It helps get this message out to more dental professionals. So please, if you haven't done that, go and rate the podcast. Another quick note. This podcast is brought to you by Dental Intelligence. We're so grateful for them for funding this and for helping get education out in the industry. As always, they have a special offer for our listeners. If you take a demo, they'll give you a $50 gift card for taking a look at what they're doing behind the scenes to help dental practices grow. Without any further ado, I'm super excited about today's topic. We are going to talk about hospitality in the industry, about our team members, about our patients. And I think it's perfect timing. I just came off of, as did everyone, recording this right after Memorial Day. And what a nice long weekend to have. And I was just joking with our guests that my two boys came and asked me, hey, Dad, so since we're off for summer break, do you get summer break too? And unfortunately, the answer to that's no. But I think a lot of parents and workers kind of have it in their mind, like, man, wouldn't it be nice if there was a summer break? We're almost halfway through the year. You can start to feel a little burnt out. You see the sun shine outside and you're like, man, wouldn't it be nice to go outside and play? So today we're going to talk about something that I think is super relevant. So from a leadership perspective and from a patient care perspective, how can we make our practice a place where people are excited about being, they feel energy there and they feel motivated? And we've got two of the most perfect people to talk about this. So I've got with me Chris and Marissa from Dental Practice Management Agency. They just launched their consulting firm a couple of years ago and are having amazing success. We're partners with them at Dental Intel and are thrilled to have them finally join the podcast. So welcome, Chris. Welcome, Marissa. Why don't you go ahead and give everyone an introduction to yourselves?
Absolutely. Thank you for having us. It's such an honor to be here. My name is Marissa. This is my partner, Chris. Yes, we started our biz about 2 years ago, and we really started it with the vision that we wanted to make sure that we led people to their growth, not with this cookie cutter idea of what we thought growth should be. And it's been super successful. We really just guided people to find what their path is in dentistry and ownership and all of those pieces, and their teams too, which is it's been really fulfilling for us.
It has.
I love that.
So we both have come from dental backgrounds. Marissa was an assistant, and then she managed a DSO forever and ever. And then I was a hygienist for many, many years. And we just really saw all the needs from cultural needs to systems and protocol needs, and that not every office that we were in was exactly the same. So we have ideas, and letting them bring their own juju to it, so to speak, really makes it stick. So
I love that. In fact, why you said that, I'll tell the listeners, one of the things that I've loved as I got to know you guys. So at Dental Intel, we've been doing dental intelligence. I'm making sure I said the right company name. And I'm not supposed to say Dental Intel anymore. We've gone through a rebrand. It's Dental Intelligence, the full name. So if I say it wrong, correct me. So one of the things that we do here at Dental Intelligence, we've started doing Gallup surveys for all of our employees, but that less relevant. I guess it's relevant. We want to know how our employees are feeling. But two of the questions that Gallup has shared with us that are like really telling about a company and workers' experiences are: one, do they know what's expected of them to be successful in their job? And that's one thing, like, as I spend time in dentistry, so many people have like a feeling of what they think is expected of them, but it doesn't actually like match up with the leadership. So I'm kind of excited for you guys to share some of that today. Chris, you started to kind of like hint at that. And then the other one was, do you have the tools you need to get your job done? And so that's been fun for us to focus on as a company. We're a data nerd company, so we're always looking at ways we can tweak and improve. And certainly we want to take care of our team members as well and make it fun. So it's been on my mind lately. And Chris, as you were sharing, I was like, okay, yeah, sweet. I've got I had some more questions I'm going to for sure hit you with today. So let's start then talking about like your guys's methodology. So today, as I mentioned, Chris and Marissa wanted to talk about their methodology for hospitality and leadership in a dental practice. So talk us through kind of high level, and then we'll move more into like some of the nitty gritty. Tell us more about your methodology and what you're focusing on with practices in terms of the leadership as well as hospitality with patients in a dental practice.
Absolutely. You know, Chris and I, through our many years in consulting, well before we started our business, have seen, and especially lately, I think since COVID more so, we have really gotten away from hospitality and even more so from leadership. And we'll be real, there's never ever been really great leadership at dentistry because you're the main producer, right? You're focused on all the things. And so leadership, HR, really buying into your employees is kind of almost like the second thing that you, or third or fourth thing that you're worried about after paying bills and everything else. So, you know, really what we see is that we've gotten away from being who we need to be for our patients, like as hospitable as we need to be, and really focusing in on those details. And we've also gotten away from buying into our team members and leading them where they need to go, which is causing us to lose patients, and it's causing us to lose team members, which are very hard to find right now. Both of those things that are lost. So we really wanted to focus in on how do we focus more on being in a relationship instead of being right. Because when we add those no-show fees and we do all those things to safeguard ourselves, what we're doing is we're putting walls up in front of our patients and our team members. We're putting ourselves in the mindset that we need to be right, not in a relationship with people. And that's completely opposite of hospitality. And really, whether we like it or not, we are in the service business. We're in every business is the business of people, right? So we're here to serve. And by serving, you really focusing in on those hospitable details, it really creates like that next level.
I'm curious to know, tell me more about, as I'm a leader in a dental practice, and what are some of the overarching principles that you guys like to teach leaders? So I agree, like the day is so busy, and if I'm just focusing on like the tasks to be done in front of me, which is a very reactive way of running a business. There's a John Maxwell quote, I'm not going to get it right, but he just talks about how when we're reactive, we're focused on repairing. When we're proactive, we're focused on preparing, right? So this idea that like, I feel like so many leaders are so focused on repairing all the time. It's like, oh crap, like I lost track of this thing, so I'm going to go like fix that problem. And then I'm just focused on, once again, the tasks right in front of me. And that reactive nature really makes it so it's difficult for us to connect with our teams. What are some of those like overarching principles or things that I should keep as a forefront as a leader in the dental practice that will help me be less reactive and more proactive with my team?
That's an amazing question. You know, we are huge servant leadership people.
Yes.
A really great book to read, The Servant by James C. Hunter. It's all about how you serve your team, your whoever, your kids, your whatever, whoever you're in a relationship with, has them serve whoever they're connected with. So you serve your team, they serve your patients. So we're very much about, instead of a yearly review per se, like instead of sitting down, giving them a review and going over usually the things they weren't doing so right, you know, the speckling and trying to find the good, we do goal setting. So it's sitting down, bring your 3 goals for this year, and I'm going to bring my goals for you, and we'll talk about how you're doing, but I'm also going to buy into you enough to figure out how we get you to that goal. Those people don't leave your charge. When you're that leader that buys into them, and people laugh when I say this, but I believe in huggings and spankings equally, meaning you deserve to get speak the love, speak the beauty you see in your team. And especially if they're making a change, if you talk to them about something, but also be high confront, meaning hold them accountable, because a lot of dentists that we find out in the world, most business owners, honestly, they have a hard time holding their team accountable. That confrontation scares the heck out of them. And frankly, they don't want to lose somebody. So they kind of feel like they're held hostage. So, you know, those people need both of those things to be bought into and to be held accountable, and they'll stay. They really do buy into you if you buy into them.
Mm-hmm. Can we go on the hold people accountable tangent for a second? I'm really curious about that. Like,
sure.
So as you were talking, I just thought, man, like we live in an interesting world. Like our modern context today is almost like anti-confrontational. It's like you're not allowed to tell someone what they should or shouldn't be doing, or what they can or cannot think. But as a business leader, like you are responsible for this whole picture of the experience, and you do have to tell people like what's right and what's wrong. You know, one of the things that I really like, Brene Brown, a psychologist and writer, And she talks about how, what's the phrase? I think it's being clear is kind or something like that. Essentially this idea that the more clear we can be with our expectations, like that is what kind looks like. And so then if someone's not within those boundaries and being clear, like, hey, you stepped outside of what excellent looks like or my expectations for you, then that is kind, even though it feels like confrontation. One of the thoughts that I've had recently, I was thinking about my coaches growing up, and I know sports doesn't relate with anyone, with like everyone, but like follow me on this one. So like I kind of picture these like two different types of coaches on a scale, right? So on the one side, we have a coach who like doesn't give us any fluff and just only tells us what we're doing wrong all the time. And on the other end, we have a coach who will never tell us what we're doing wrong and only tells us amazing things about ourselves, even if they aren't like actually true. Does that make sense? So there's like two ends of this continuum. And I'd like to like ask people like, which side of this continuum would you, if you had to pick an extreme, which coach would you want? And your goal is to be better at the thing that you're doing. And it's a hard question, right? Like on the one hand, we don't want to like only hear what's bad about us. Like we want to hear we're doing some good things. But at the same time, if I pick the one who only tells me nice things, then like I'll never know how to improve because I'll just believe falsely that I'm doing the right things. Does that make sense? So there's this like scale. And it made me think about, I had this high school coach, Coach Snow in football. And I remember during one particular practice, he was just harping on me. I was a cornerback. So in football, it's the guy playing defense. And there was the other kid on the other side of the field. Rolo was his nickname. And I noticed like he wasn't calling this kid out at all. Like he was making the same mistakes as me, but he wasn't correcting them. And I got so frustrated, I went up to him and I said, Coach, like, will you just back off? Like he's making the same mistakes. Like, why are you on my back? And he like grabbed my helmet and pulled me close, like coaches do in high school. Maybe they don't do this anymore. Maybe they're far softer. But he pulls me in and he's like, I correct you because you listen and you improve. I quit on him. He doesn't listen to me anymore. And he's like, you need to understand this. The second your leader stops correcting you, they've quit on you. They've given up on you. And Steve, you never want to be the type of person, team member, employee, like learn this for the rest of your life. You never want to be the person that no one can correct because they won't listen. Like that's a terrible place to be. And like that lesson like sat in my head. So for me, if I'm picking like, I didn't like it, but the person that will always tell me like how I can improve versus the one that will never tell me, but just tells me nice things, I'm probably going to lean this way personally. But I'm curious to know, like you guys, there's probably like some happy medium. Tell me what you guys think about this spectrum. Like, where do you fall? Because there is this side where we need to correct people. And maybe it's like you said, there's this balance of like telling them that you love them and the great things versus correction. But I feel like right now in our today's world, we definitely lean on the saying nice things and we don't like correct very well or often.
Well, like Marissa said, you have to have both, right? So when she says hugging and spankings, you give your huggings publicly and you give your spankings privately, right?
I like that. Good advice.
The very beginning of that is, what is the expectation? So especially hiring new team members and, or teams are growing or flexing in different ways, but especially the new ones, we tend to train them by fire. Here you go, sit down and assist, let's rock and roll. And you know what? 3 months later, you're going, why does this person not know this thing? And 99% of the time, because we didn't take the time to train them properly. So really setting up that expectation is the only way you can hold those people accountable. Otherwise, they have no idea, what's going on. And that odd feeling for the employee is like, am I doing this right? Am I not doing this right? Did I do what we did in my last office? Cannot tell you how many times we heard that because they don't know what they need to do in this office. And so the accountability comes in with, here's the expectation. Okay. And then we're going to help you. We're going to help hold you accountable to that. And the accountability doesn't have to be shameful, and it shouldn't be in any way. It can be, here's what happened. What were you thinking about this thing? Like, how did you come to this conclusion of how this happened? And so it's really involving them in what the outcome is supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I love what you said about,
go ahead.
I love what you said about your coach too, because to me, I think exactly the opposite. Now we hear so many dentists when we go into offices that are like, you know what? Nobody has tough skin anymore. I can't say anything to anyone. So I'm not saying anything to anyone at all because everyone is going to take it a different way. And that is leadership. It's figuring out what each person needs. Mr. Rollo, he needed something completely different than you did, right? So he needed someone to get one-on-one with him and be probably more sensitive. A lot of people shut down when you come at them like that. So it's about figuring out who's on your team and what they need. And I know that is the worst thing to hear when you're a business owner, because you're like, I don't have time for that. Like, I don't have time for that. And, Chris and I use the DISC personality profile quite a bit with our teams to figure out who needs what communication, because a true leader figures out how to master communication. And by doing that, you figure out that Chris needs something completely different than Marissa needs. It's that way. So you have to be a true leader, figures out how each person can be motivated and held accountable.
Yeah, I love that. This might be like a dumb, I've got 2 little kids. So for listeners, just so you guys know, I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old boy. So as I'm listening to her talk about the opposite, where instead of just being sharp with someone, thinking hey, tell me more about how you feel about that, or why are you thinking that way, makes me think of Bluey. Like the dad in Bluey takes all the time, gets on the kid's level and is so good. And there's times as a dad, I think how do you have time to talk that way? And let your kids spit it all out, where it's I just want to tell them no, we just don't behave that way and let's move on. But I agree. You do need to tailor that to the individual. I've got a brother who he's exactly what you described. If you come at him hard, then he'll just shut down and he'll get in his head. He'll be they don't think I'm good at my job and they don't believe in me. And then his performance is hindered, right? Where he needs far more of that sensitive approach to it. Tell me more, let him verbalize how he's feeling about things and then give him encouragement to do something better, right? Maybe more the idea, instead of growing from your criticisms, it's this idea that how did I phrase this? But I think we either rise to our compliments or fall to our critics a lot of times, where people, when they're told, here's the example, in 2nd grade, I was my teacher just told me over and over again that I had amazing penmanship. And my mom was great. She had me keep a journal as a 2nd grader. She's an amazing mom. But I look at my 2nd grade penmanship and it was terrible. So I had this 2nd grade teacher who in some ways is giving me that continuum. I said kind of fake compliments, but I rose to those compliments because I started to believe, oh, I've got great penmanship. And I wanted to make sure that I actually did, where people will rise to that a lot of times. You infuse in them a belief that they are excellent and they have the ability to rise to excellence, and they will rise to that. So I definitely believe in that. So don't misinterpret my comments as we always need to be harsh with everyone. But yeah, I like that a lot. So let's start transitioning into some more nitty-gritty, which I think we already kind of did, right? One of the things that was highlighted already was this idea of expectations, that in order for us to correct anybody, there needs to be clear expectations. I've always been a big believer that if we have that, I think you made the comment, Chris, that sometimes we'll have an assistant learn by fire. We'll get 3 months down the road and we'll be like, why does the assistant not know how to do that? They should know how to do that by now. And the honest truth is, if we haven't set expectations with them and have a formal plan to teach them that thing, then that's not the assistant's fault, right? And I'm a big believer, you can't get mad at someone for an expectation you haven't set. You can't correct them over an expectation you haven't set, because ultimately we also need to have some self-accountability as leaders and be willing to admit I dropped the ball on this one and I can't be mad at this assistant until I put some system in place where they will know what's expected of them and they know how to progress here within my business and learn the skills they need to do their job. So let's start talking more about some of these nitty-gritty practices. So tell me more about what you guys do to help, or suggest to set up some of those expectations. Do you do it by role? Do you have a manual? What do you suggest practices do? So I'm a leader in a business, office manager, dentist, and I want to start having clear expectations with the team. Tell me more about how you guys approach that.
We actually moved from we still have a whole team concept. We do have our teams and we make sure that they're on board with the things for the office. But this last year and a half or so, we've actually broken down our engagements with the teams into departments. So we have someone who is awesome in the front office. Go in, make sure they have the systems, the protocols, how to answer a phone, the way they want to, right? But just make sure everybody's doing it the same. They get to pick it. How to verify insurance, how to do all the things in the front office, how to take in a new patient, how to take in an emergency, all those things. We also have an amazing assistant who runs a very big team, go in and work with the assistant department. Is your ordering system efficient? How are you setting up for the doctors? Do you have pictures of everything? Like helping them get all those things in line. And then we have a department lead for hygiene that goes in and says, how are you taking the very best care of your patient? What are the expectations of your doctor? Are we having good flow? Are we having, our exams in the proper place? Those types of things. And at the end of each one of those things, which is really about 4 to 6 months-ish, they get their own SOP manual that's made for them by the things that we've accomplished with them. So it's not this here's an SOP manual that everybody uses and it doesn't even apply to you. It's actually theirs. So
that's brilliant. If you guys didn't hear what she just said, she just talked through this brilliant way of looking at your business, right? If you've never done this, going from department to department and really just asking those same questions, being curious. Hey, what's going on here? What's going well? Is there any places where I want to make some tweaks? And then documenting that. So taking lengthy notes, and then notice what Chris said. There is this outcome at the end, and that's we have an SOP manual, right? We have this deliverable that's, hey, here's our standard way, our standard operating practices, our standard way of behaving in the business. And this is when you can start to get into more and this is where in my opinion, if you're a leader and you have that, then you feel far more confident in your ability to lead, right? Because then there's these standards across the company where okay, I can more confidently correct. Where if there's none of that, that's where I think, Marissa, you made the comment that a lot of people are just afraid to correct, or they don't feel like they can correct because people have soft skin. But maybe an element of feeling that is more around the fact that I haven't set expectations, and I don't know, haven't set, the team doesn't know where to look to see what's right and what's wrong. And so it's just difficult for me to correct, right? Where if everyone knows, we have SOPs, then in some ways it's almost self-correcting,
True. Well, and I think also they're just not clear. The docs that we do have, not all of them, but often we have them have this well, yeah, but I told them. Okay, be clear. We have plenty of people that have a really great vision, but if I go around and ask your whole team what your vision is, none of them can tell me what it is. That's a problem. That means you aren't clearly communicating exactly where this train is going. So we might all be going different ways. And then we're wondering why we're not getting to the next station. So that's exactly what that is. If you have expectations, and that's why we went to having specialists go into each department, what we do with docs is, yeah, we do business, but mostly leadership. That's what they get. But that's the piece of it. It just has to be super clear. And when it's written down too, what we love is that you don't have to come back. We let people fish once they're gone. We don't want to keep you forever and ever. Amen. Right. So once we're gone, we're here's this book. If you have people come and go, you can just be this is how we play in the sandbox. I don't have to remember how we do this. This is exactly how we do it. Here's your thing. Of course, you still need to train. You can't just give them a book, but it's so helpful. So helpful.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to ask a curveball question. This was not planned, but I'm going to ask it. So we create this manual, right? That outlines all the roles, the responsibilities. And I wanted to ask a question that I think sometimes leaders run into, at least I have before. So I remember one of my first management roles, I had 40 employees. We were doing summer youth programs. So they were week-long programs, and they would come in and self-development type stuff. And one of my mid-level managers, she never looked at the manual. So there was this manual. Every single week we would put in this folder, here's all the things you're supposed to do. Here's everywhere you're supposed to be. Here's how you do the things, and had all the instructions in there. And I remember 3 or 4 weeks in, I got frustrated as a leader because I was hey, I gave you the manual and you won't read it. And then she finally, it was after 3 or 4 weeks when finally we had a conversation. She's hey, I just don't learn well from reading. Can you just show me, just take 1 week, give me a little bit of mentorship, and just show me. I'm a visual learner. Just show me what I'm supposed to do. And then it will make that stuff make way more sense to me. So tell me how to bridge that gap, because I do believe that you guys talked about tailoring things to team members. And while I personally am a manuals guy, I'll go read any like company policy manual. I love that crap. I'm weird. I know everything. But I know that most people aren't that way. They won't just go like read it as a new employee or when they're bored. So tell me, how do you bridge the gap between having a piece of paper that says all the right things and actually getting that in front of team members so that they're implementing it?
Well, you have to figure probably over 65, maybe 70% of people are hands-on learners.
Yeah.
Most people are visual learners. So they need to see something done more than they need to. But the beauty of it is that you, like Marissa said, you don't just hand this new person the manual. This new person gets the manual, and we basically say, we are going to be taking you through this manual and showing you exactly what's going on. Should you need something for reference, here's your manual.
Cool.
Okay. And that 100% of the time, I could never give Marissa a manual. I know Marissa. She's going to look at the manual and she goes, okay, tell me what it says.
Their pictures.
So we watch a video, so it's really, people need both, right? They need to see it done. They need to read about it and go, oh, okay, I get this. They can see a discrepancy in the manual and go back and say, hey, you showed me this thing, but here it says this, and then that's a signal for us, because we may have tweaked it along the way. And now we need to go change the manual, right? So it's very helpful. You have to have both. You have to. And we have people like sign off on their manual. Like, I read the manual,
Oh, that's great.
I know it's just a signature and they could have not read the manual, but in general, the way we're covering what's learned in the manual, we know if they've read the manual or not. So it's both. They have to have both.
Yeah. And with our teams, honestly, we don't hand them that manual until we've completely trained through it. So if we train on this section, then it goes in the manual. Then we train on this section, then it goes in the manual, and they're hands-on with that. And I think that's super important. If you don't have a coach and you're creating this on your own in your practice, which it's time consuming, but if you have a lead in a department or somebody that you can trust to do it, have that hygienist or that assistant or that admin person do it. But really putting together that flow and just making sure that you're creating it as a team, because it's way easier to say, Chris, what do you want to do in this thing? Or what should we build here? Versus, Chris, this is how you're going to do stuff. Totally different morale in that way. It's a culture builder. It really is.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, let's step back one more time. And I want to ask this question. So like, how do you guys think through, there's, kind of two things here. We want our patients to enjoy their experience in the practice. So how do you guys think through optimizing that patient flow so they've got a good experience? And also at the same time, making sure that optimization we're doing there isn't like inhibiting the team. So making sure the team members enjoy their experience in the business as well.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
You're going to hate this, doctors. Slow down. Okay. You have to slow down to speed up. When we have that, and dentistry is fast paced. Anybody that says, oh, I'm just like laying back and doing dentistry is not really doing dentistry. It's very fast paced. But when the team feels rushed and they get angsty, they talk too fast, they're abrupt, they start dropping balls. And the whole team feels that. And when the whole team feels that, guess who else feels it walking in the door? The patient, for sure. So a rushed patient in a chaotic atmosphere does not accept the treatment that they need and deserve. They're like in and they're being hustled and then they're out. So they don't schedule their treatment. So that's part of flow, is just
Man, that's such a good point. I just want you to stop for a second.
Okay, I'll stop.
I want you to keep going, but I just want to call that out. That's so true. If I feel rushed, then a lot of times I just won't make a decision, right? It's like that experience of being in the car. My wife's like, where do you want to go to eat? It's I don't know. I'm trying to drive and make a decision. I don't want to do that right now. Where if a patient's in a chair with these people around them, and they feel it the whole time it's rushed. Oh, that's such a good call out. That's really cool, Chris. Sorry, keep going. But I want people to hear that. I agree. You got to slow down to speed up. That's cool. Keep going.
And our hospitality program, when we implement that, that's really what we're teaching. And we're not really teaching slow down. You need an hour and a half for a prophy. We're not saying that. What we're saying is slow down your speech, slow down your movements, make that patient feel cared for. I'm not going to stand behind them and talk. I'm going to come in front of them and sit knee to knee and talk face to face. That's a game changer. And it took me 10 seconds to swing around and talk this way rather than sitting behind them or whispering behind them or whatever it is, or just feeling anxious. Okay. Treatment acceptance is more about the value, not about the money. So if we can slow down and convey the value about that, then we get treatment acceptance, and getting that whole team to work together, fulfilling each other's expectations, really doing our passes and our flow of the appointment beautifully. We have our teams practice that. They love a good role play. Not, but it's so good for them.
I was like nodding my head, and then as you said, I was like,
you're like, no. But when the patient feels that flow and that care, the doctor says, I need you to do this. The hygienist reiterates, the hygienist passes to admin that way. That patient's going to be like, okay, I really do need to do this thing. I know exactly when I need to do it, how I need to do it, and how much time that I need to get this whole treatment plan completed. Okay. And there's no anxiousness. You know, there's no forced, there's no chaos, all the things.
I love that. Marissa, any thoughts you want to add?
Yeah, I think we see more practices have that chaotic, busy feeling where they're not taking care of the patients and they're not taking care of the team when they don't have some sort of a plan in their schedule. I love block booking. I'm the block booking queen.
Yes,
and making sure that we really have a plan for our day and balancing out that production versus seeing, a billion seats or post-ops for $0. We had a really busy day and everyone wants to die at the end and the patients didn't feel served, but we made $0. So we're really passionate about balancing that. And it's not even because of the money. It's because when you have time and you plan for it, you can build relationship and make money, which pays all the bills and the people that work there. So it's important, but I think really making sure that you're looking at that, look at what your day looks like and, have some balance of the production and non-production time and be smart about your plan for it and communicate it well. Because that's where we see practices really be able to slow down, but still make more money. That annual patient value, dental intelligence.
That's right. Watch that thing tick up a little bit. Yeah, right. One of the things that I shared with Marissa and Chris that I think we all agreed on, and Marissa kind of hinted this towards the beginning, is that dentistry is a service-oriented business. And I'm a huge believer that like the better we serve our teams and our patients, like the bigger our opportunity to serve will be. Right? Like we'll just have more people and it will happen. And if we get too selfish and focused on self and money, and it's less about serving people in our teams and our patients, then our opportunity to serve will contract. And we just won't have the same amount there, where there's definitely this, I think, abundance versus scarcity mindset that plays in. I love, listening to you, Chris and Marissa, like you guys are clearly abundant in the way that you think. There's so much opportunity here to serve. We want our patients to invest in themselves, think more abundantly themselves. We want our team members to think more that way. Now, as we kind of come towards the end of this, we've talked about so many good things about kind of just general overviews on the industry, hospitality, and how it's a need in the business where we can just get so busy, focused on the reactive things and the tasks in front of us, and less focused on hospitality, as well as being an actual leader, setting expectations, documentation, the way we approach that, how we implement it with our teams. Like so many good nuggets people could have taken away and heard. If you haven't heard them yet, I'm trying to recap them for you. I want to end with one question, and I don't know if you want to both answer, if you want to kind of answer together, but we always end with the question, what does growth in dentistry mean to you? And I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely tag team this one because I know we both agree, but we're one brain. For me, and I know Chris feels the same way, there's two pieces to growth, and it's the numbers, yes, but the other piece of it really is the culture, and we're very heavy on that. You have to have culture in order to keep all those systems and things going. You can't go too far one way though, because we've seen plenty of offices where we go in, man, is it like kumbaya? People are braiding hairs and singing songs, everything's great, and the numbers suck, right? So we want to make sure there's a balance of those things, and there can be, but I think what we've gotten away from, and you hit the nail on the head, is we get so scarcity mindseted when we're like not doing well. We focus so on what we don't have that more of what we don't have shows up. instead of looking up and really looking at it globally and how can we serve our team better so that they can serve our patients better? How do we get back to hospitality, which is honestly why we created our hospitality and leadership program, because it's completely separate from even what we do with our teams. But we did it because we were seeing that lacking. We were seeing the leadership and the hospitality lacking.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that, we see the teams when they are being abundant and they are doing all these wonderful things, they stop looking at how they got there.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden that starts to crumble, and then they start going down that scarcity path again. So it's really about keeping this afloat, while they're doing what they're doing. Even though you're doing great and doing wonderfully, and you're serving your patients and they're accepting treatment, you still have to cross your T's and dot your I's, and make sure that you're going to keep this abundance going.
It's like those old wells that you had to prime before they would start to finally pump the water. We tell them that all the time. Like, when you're busy, we quit focusing on what we should be doing. We're just so busy. We're like, but if those are the moments more than ever that you need to keep priming that pump, because boy, are you going to be thirsty when all this busyness dries up. Yeah. So keep pumping it, keep making sure you're doing the right things. That more than ever is when we need to focus on our systems.
Man, I love that insight. Well, thank you. Special thanks to Marissa and Chris for joining us today. What a great episode. So many nuggets that you can take and implement. Now, if you want to get in contact with you guys, what's the best way to do that? Website, emails?
Yes.
Both. Yes. Either way, it's fine. Our contact information is on the website, and it's also our email. So the dental practice management agency.com is our website, and we'll make sure you have our emails in the show notes.
Perfect. Yeah. So that's great. We'll put both emails in the show notes if you want to reach out to them directly. We'll put their website, dental practice management agency.com, in the show notes as well. If you want to engage with them and learn more about them, what's their kind of methodology for the way they approach things, if you want to reach out to them and talk more about how they can help you in your business, obviously do that. These are wonderful folks, super grateful to work together. Like I said, this has been a Growth in Dentistry podcast. Thank you for joining. Big thanks and shout out to our marketing team as always for helping produce and get these out to the industry. I'm Steve Jensen. I've been your host. Let's keep growing together.